Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Scholars Path Africa. I'm Rashida, and I'm going to be your host for today. And as usual, I'm joined by amazing colleague. Please say hi to our listeners.
Hello, dear listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's Amy.
And in today's episode, we are going to be doing something amazing. We've always told you to DM us your questions, send us your questions by email on all our social media handles. And we have received your questions. And today is that episode, the episode where we answer the questions that you've been sending to us. So we are going to be diving into most of them. And for any questions we do not answer, we are going to be answering them in another Q&A episode. So keep sending your questions to us. We'll definitely be answering them, and watch our previous episodes to have any other questions that we may not have answered today. We have episodes that answer those questions. So Amy, one of our listeners sent us a first question. It is, how should students start preparing for their scholarships? How
How?
early? How early?
Okay. How early? So I should say, by the time that person starts or thinks about getting a scholarship in future, it can be immediately. For example, people who have just started their Form 6s, yeah, it's not too late. You can start from there.
True.
Yeah, because, scholarships, they consider points, but you also need other requirements to apply for that scholarship. If you're still in school, maybe around S4,
True.
S5, S6, you can start preparing now, considering your grades. Because we know that scholarships are so competitive. Yeah. And if at all you've just finished your Form 6, still you can prepare. Start right now so that in case of anything, like you're ready to go.
And you have, if you need to round up a few co-curricular activities, you
Yeah.
have the time to get the certificates and all those
Exactly. And all
things,
the inside
the
documents.
inside documents. Then we have another question that people have asked, that do you need perfect grades to win a fully funded scholarship?
Maybe the question would say, what are perfect grades?
What are perfect grades, by the way?
Yeah.
I think the perfect grades you're talking about triple A or 20 in 20 or 90. Probably
yeah.
let's say 20 in 20. That
I
would probably
think
be a
that's
perfect
the
grade.
only. I think when you score a 20 in 20, like you've scored A's
A's
throughout,
all
yeah, that
through.
can be a perfect grade. But I can say no. Shouldn't be perfect grade because people have 18, people have gotten 19, people have gotten 15,
It's still a good grade.
14 is still a good
And
grade.
scholarship worthy.
So you just need good grades, not perfect. Yeah, because some scholarships take as low as 13 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the thing we're also going to tell our listeners is you should remember that a lot of scholarships are merit based. Merit means you earned it, and to be able to compete for them, you need to have good grades. So do not go to school and be lax and decide not to put in your full effort. You'd rather have the grades to compete than want a scholarship and not be in position to compete for
Yeah,
it.
but also don't really kill yourself over grades. That I have to get perfect grades, triple A's. No, really, yeah.
Something else someone asks us was, what do scholarship committees really look for beyond the academics? Beyond your grades, what else do scholarship committees look for?
Yeah, so there are these things they call, is it added advantage?
Yeah, or the added advantage.
Added advantages. So, for example, you've participated in leadership, you participated in a number of co-curricular activities like
Yes.
sports, like you've sports debates, like the number of activities in school that give you a +1 reaching the point of application. Yes, so beyond the academics, beyond the grades, please make sure you participate in those activities. Do some leadership, do some sports, all that gives you a +1.
Because also I think we've always told is because scholarships are very competitive, you can't be the person that just has perfect grades. Everybody that walks into that door that sent their application and was called to the interview had perfect grades. So now what's going to push you beyond the interview or beyond the perfect grades is what more you can offer. Those co-curricular activities, your music, dance and drama, your sports, your debate, your writing competitions, your
Exactly.
poetry. So I'd do something more that's just beyond academics.
Yeah, because some scholarships might require you to write, they called motivation letters,
Yes.
and all that, and how well you can present yourself. So all those things, put them in consideration, and it give you a +1. Yeah.
Someone asks, how many scholarships should someone apply to at the same time?
Well, you can apply to as many scholarships as they've advertised or as there is.
True.
Yeah, there's no limit. You can apply to all because you never know which one will give
You're
you.
going to
That
get.
is one
True.
thing. And also, as you're applying, make sure you're giving every scholarship your
Your 100 base.
100%.
True.
Exactly.
There's no saying that this one you write a very good motivation letter, then someone else you're just submitting your essays looking anyhow. You have to give it very best, because probably the one you're undermining, the one where you wrote your essays looking anyhow, was the one you probably could have qualified for. So
Exactly.
whatever scholarship you're applying for, you need to be able to give it your very
Your
best.
very hand, yeah. Just give it time, sit down, find out what are the requirements for that scholarship, and do the needful.
Now that we've talked about someone applying for multiple scholarships. There is also the other part we need to talk about, the multiple rejections. How does a student deal with multiple rejections? Because you've been applying for all these scholarships and you've been hoping like probably I'll end up with 403. Then suddenly you get multiple rejections, and probably all rejections, or probably you've only got one accepted. So how does someone deal with those multiple rejections to say? And sometimes the scholarships are in phases. Probably in January you applied for one, you got a rejection. In February you apply for another for rejection. So how does a student keep being motivated even after they've gotten all those rejections?
I want to say one point. Do you really want the scholarship?
I do.
Oh, all I can say is keep on, like, okay, if you get one, well and good. But then it so happens that all you've been rejected all through
True,
the
yeah, because it's
applications you've
also a
submitted.
possibility.
Exactly, because it's also a possibility. Yeah, maybe what I should say is, as you're applying to these scholarships, make a plan before yourself. Apply to other institutions within the
Institutions
country.
in the country,
Yeah,
true.
because guys, it's not a guarantee. We are also not guaranteeing you that if you give it your 100, you're going to get that scholarship. No, things might turn out different.
Definitely.
Yes, so be expecting to get a scholarship, but as well keep in at the back of your mind, that there are rejections. So as you apply to those scholarships, also try to apply to the institutions within the country. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think we've been telling you, you need to be doing multiple applications. And do not be a person that just sits and you did the applications only and didn't apply for universities in your country. You're just
Yeah.
doing your scholarship applications for just abroad. Apply for as many opportunities as are
you can,
available.
exactly.
But the thing that you also need to remember, that simply because you got rejected from one scholarship does not necessarily mean that suddenly you're not going to be successful, or suddenly now your
In
life
the
has
other-
stopped. There's so many ways.
Yeah.
Go to school. If you've been rejected for the multiple scholarships, apply to a university in your country and go to school.
Yeah,
Apply for your
and
masters.
also,
Apply for a
exactly,
fellowship
you
program.
might
There's so
not-
many ways. So it doesn't necessarily mean that now that I've applied for this scholarship, it's the end. But the thing I remember, for me, one of my friends kept telling me when I was applying to college and I was getting rejection, she kept telling me, it's like, you need to understand one thing. There's two things. Are you a good fit for that school? But even after that, you need to ask, is that school a good fit for you? Because sometimes you look at the rejections and you think, I really need to go here, I need to go to this country. Probably that country is not a good fit for you. So every time you need to remember, it's a two-way question. Whoever is looking at your application is thinking, are they a good fit for us? But at the same time, they're also thinking, is that institution a good fit for you? So it's a two-way question.
Yeah, and also you might fail to get a scholarship for your undergrad. You try again for masters.
For masters.
You can try again for
To
a
transfer even for a
PhD,
PhD. Or even you go to
transfers,
school, you
yeah.
can start and ask for a transfer. To transfer to your college of choice.
Yeah. Okay, so someone was asking, what were the biggest fears you had before leaving, and were they true? Like leaving the country.
I think for me, what I would say, I'm pretty independent. I'm very, very independent. But I think my greatest fear for me was language. Because they're telling us, oh, you're going to study, we're going to a French country that uses French
And Arabic.
mainly, and Arabic.
Yeah.
And then you need to, and I thought, okay, it's just the speaking. But then I had to learn French in school. So for me, I was scared because I hadn't studied French at all before. So I knew it was going to be difficult adjusting and just having to now start from nowhere, because usually you walk into, and then if you have English, there's somewhere you're starting. We have a common language. So I'm not going to be struggling with understanding. I just need to sit through classes. But now here you don't speak the language. So you were starting from nowhere. So for me, it was scary, and it did turn out true. It was a lot of work.
A lot of work.
But
yeah.
I think if you prepare yourself mentally, do research about the country you're going to, and prepare yourself mentally for some of those things.
Yeah.
If it's the language and it's going to be a new language, prepare yourself mentally that it's not going to be easy, and be willing to put in the work. I think for me, that's what I would tell students.
Yeah, and also actually that takes us back to the question that was asked earlier, like was it, when should you start
Yes,
preparing
yes,
for
yes,
that given
yes.
scholarship. Yeah, that can also be part of the preparations. If you find out that I'm interested in studying or going to such and such a
A
country, find
country.
out which language, what is the language of instruction, and if it's a foreign language, try to learn that language before you get there. Yeah.
And if you don't also, but I always tell people it's like it's easier to do things that you've prepared for mentally. And for me, that something that I've made peace with mentally, you can always deal with. But
Yeah.
every time you're in that denial or something comes in as a shock, but if you prepare yourself mentally and know, okay, I'm going to this country, I don't understand the language, it's going to be a lot of work, but I am willing to learn because that's the most important thing. Like I am willing to
Willing to
learn
learn,
and I
yeah.
am willing to put in the work to make sure that I succeed. Once you prepare yourself mentally, even when you go and suddenly you're faced with that situation, you're already prepared mentally for it. So it doesn't really give you that much of a shock.
Yeah. Then someone was asking, how did you prepare mentally to leave your family and friends for a long time?
Ah. How do I even talk about that? Especially for
Yeah.
people like I'm so used to having my support system.
Oh. Oh.
Calling my mom, my siblings, and seeing them every day. If I'm just so used to that. So that the thought of leaving was also, I think my mom always kept telling me is like you need to understand, you need to be a bit independent. So for me, the thought of leaving was just like I'll keep in touch, constantly call, constantly check in, and that's the thing we're also going to tell the parents who are going to be watching us on this platform. If you are sending your child abroad, you need to understand they are going away from the support system. They are going away from the people they are used to seeing, the people that literally hold them. They are now going to be there and it's independent. So once in a while, check on them because there's so much they're going to be going through that they're not going to be talking to you about. So
Yeah. True.
please talk to them, call them, check on them, always ask, and do it very lovingly. Do not be very begrudging. Like the parents always say, weren't you passing? Go right to some right or yeah. And then maybe the child is saying, oh my God, I'm having such a hard time. Guma.
Guma.
So better. Abantu
No,
bulijjo
no, what
babeerayo.
took you there?
Omanye kyakutwala. Please do not be those parents
Yeah.
because genuinely, like life abroad is very lonely.
Yeah. And
The last part you want is even the people that are supposed to be comforting you and knowing that I don't even have that anymore.
exactly.
So even from a distance, please call your children, call your siblings, call your friends, check on them, text them. Like those things hold people together
constant
constantly. It's constant
communication. Yes.
communication for me. I think that is what prepared that.
Yeah, and also you can find time once in, like, summer breaks or holidays, and you come back home.
Come back home.
Yeah, that
Spend
can
time
also
with
help.
people.
Yeah.
It does help a lot mentally and reminds you that you actually loved at home. There is love at home.
And okay, someone was asking, how did you choose the right country and university?
Please, I applied for what was available.
I know.
So when the applications came out, it was Algeria. That is what was available,
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
what I was like. And when it told me to choose the university, I didn't know any place in Algeria. I only knew there's a capital. The capital is Algiers.
Algiers, yeah.
So there must be a university called the University of Algiers, and that is what I put.
Yeah.
That was it. That is for me how I came. It was what was available, and could I handle it? Is it an environment I could survive in? So for me, it was just that. It was honestly what was available.
Yeah, there's a question here. Someone is saying, for people who got partial scholarships which are not fully funded, how can they manage life? Like, how can they manage? You said the scholarship had most scholarship have accommodation. They cater for food and then transport sometimes. Now a partial scholarship, they're only giving you tuition. You're supposed to cater for yourself the rest of the stuff. How can one handle that?
I think for me, first, you need to be very honest with your finances. Look at your finances and be sure if it's a partial scholarship and probably they only offered you a scholarship, find out the accommodation rates in that country. Like usually, and internet has made things quite
Like,
easy.
the cost of living.
The cost of living, you can even
food,
find out if I'm
everything.
looking for an apartment, what apartment is available, how much, how far is it from the university. But it's best if if you're only getting your tuition, please find a place that's always close to the university so you're not spending on transport. Then find out the cost of food. And I tell people genuinely every day that there are scholarships you're going to get and they're going to just be even a greater burden for you. Because if you have a partial scholarship and you have to be paying your accommodation, you need to be feeding yourself, you need to be buying your textbooks, and probably that's going to be a burden on your parents. You need to be honest with yourself and know this is going to be more
Like
burdensome.
the facilitation is more expensive compared to the tuition.
The tuition.
Yeah.
And it's all, even if it's not very expensive, but it's going to be cause a burden. It's going to be a burden for your parents or even for yourself, and it's going to be more stressful, I would honestly tell you not to be taking up that scholarship, because it doesn't make sense to go to a country where you only go tuition to end up suffering. You don't have where to sleep, and now you're sleeping on the streets. The winter is not a joke. It is very cold. The summer is not a joke. Also, it is very, very hot. So if you're having a partial scholarship and you look through your finances and genuinely you cannot afford to pay, I would always advise, please reject it. But also there's, I think my friend always used to tell me, when she used to get the special scholarships, you can always look, is there possibility of having a sponsor?
A sponsor.
Yeah, someone who can sponsor the other part of it. If is there the possibility of working in that country? If I am working, how much am I going to be paid? Can it be able to cover these expenses? So those are things you need to be looking at. But there's also people who always demand that we offer a scholarship, but you must have a slot at that university. So try and look into that. You always look, could I find a partial sponsor, someone else that's going to be helping me sponsor now that I have the tuition bit covered. But you need to have that grades for it, because people like to pay for people who have that grades.
Mastercard does that.
I think with Mastercard itself, they always offer full scholarships. They
No,
do not have.
like if you have a slot in
the university,
you just take your admission letter to them.
Oh,
They can give you a scholarship.
that's what we keep telling you. Do your research, but
And also, such a video, you need to consult from other individuals who have been on this special scholarship. And actually, I think we'll have a few of them.
Yeah,
people who have been on the partial scholarship.
partial had like, how did they manage? How did they navigate?
Yeah,
but also considering your family, because you have to consider if things get, guys. Yeah, like
you need to be realistic. You have nobody to fall back on.
exactly.
If I had a semester where like a
Because
whole semester, if I didn't find a job or I was fired from my job, could I go that semester and still survive? If I went 3 months without a job, can I be able to survive? So you need to look into those things, like do your research and come to a decision that is very well informed.
Yeah.
Yes. And then someone asked us something. What mistakes do most students make in their scholarship application?
Mistakes. Okay, I think it is not following the guidelines
Sure, of the scholarship.
Yeah, that's what I should say. Because I may not point out one mistake one after another, because different scholarships require different things. Yeah, so the mistakes people usually do is them going against what they've listed down, what you should do, what documents to submit.
And then you're suddenly submitting documents
exactly,
that some
like
documents
what are
are
required.
missing.
Most people, if you don't follow what are the requirements of the scholarship, that's what disqualifies you.
They don't even bother to
They
read,
asked
because
for-
it's one of the things. Once they
Exactly.
find this document is missing, they just put there. They don't
Yeah.
even bother to review.
Yeah, for
the rest of your
example,
documents.
motivation letters, there may be CVs. There is a given format of what you're supposed to put, or motivation letter, and then you do it your own way. And then when you find a rejection, you're like, hey, man, but I think I
did good
qualified. Yeah,
work.
exactly.
And my application, that my essays were good, but you didn't follow the guidelines.
Just make sure like you're doing everything the right way. Like consult people who have been on those scholarships. Let them guide you. How did they apply and all that? Yeah.
You know, it's a funny thing is that people need to understand these scholarship bodies receive too many applications.
Yeah.
So one of the
Too
first
many.
things they do, they sieve out is anybody who
It's
doesn't
like
follow the
survival for the
guidelines.
fittest.
Yes, if you don't follow their guidelines, they don't even bother looking at your documents anymore. They just put them at the side.
Yeah.
So make sure you're not making their work easy. Let them do the work. Let them be able to review your scholarship. So follow the guidelines. If they put out their requirements, stick to the requirements. If you have questions, sometimes you have the email of the scholarship committee. Email them
You
and say,
email
I have
them
some
and ask,
questions about this. Could I do it this way? Instead of you just thinking, oh, I could do it like that. It will cost you your scholarship, and it's not fair.
There is this mistake of just applying to something just because someone was told this, without doing your due diligence about the country, about
That means you don't even mind even if you get a rejection.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're like,
if you're not doing due diligence, you're just like,
yeah,
can't take it.
I
You
can't
just
attach
sit
to
there.
that.
You don't really care about the rejection. Someone asked us also, how do you explain studying abroad to family members who don't fully understand that? Because I know people who have gotten opportunities and suddenly people's, like, especially if you come from your parents are not very, very well educated. I know people whose parents, their friends have told them, "Omwana agende ya yo no neke racho mtume," or they start referencing someone's daughter in the village who went abroad and suddenly came back with certain behavior, or someone's son who went out and maybe came back with a drug problem. And they'll keep telling your parents, omwana tomutwalayo, omwana agenda kwononeka, ogambye agenda munsi ki, oyagenda kwononeka abaana be boononeka yensi eno n'abantu. How do you then explain that to your parent or to your family members that I have this opportunity to go abroad, for them to understand that this is a good opportunity, and you are not going to, it's not going to be the rhetoric like I'm not going to turn out like someone's child they again they weirdo and someone's child. So how do you explain that to a parent?
That's a hard one. It's a hard one because if they're already giving you live examples of people who turned out different from what was supposed to happen, then that's also hard on you. I think now there you have to give also to you also have to come up with your own examples. Like, but so and so
Also
was there.
Yes.
And she's doing A, B, and C.
Exactly.
She's
And-
doing well. You get. Like, I think you just have to talk to them. You try to convince them, but now with evidence, because they already have theirs. You said they saw someone son of the village, like having not made it, or it came out a different person and not as they expected. Yeah, it's real hard, but also parents, it also depends on your behavior.
True.
If your parents trust in you, most times it's about like it's the trust your parents have in you. Yeah, because there are very many things. Okay, it's school, like
You were the person in school that was always escaping.
exactly.
You were the person they were suspending.
Exactly.
You were the person that was
And now
not attending
you want to
class. Now
tell
you
your
want to go
parent that I
abroad
want to go away.
to have so much freedom.
Yeah, my
when
dear.
when no one is following
Exactly.
you.
That would be hard. So be good yourself so that the parents have that trust in you that when you go there, you're going to come out right. Yeah.
There is a question. Like, we have countries which have had history of war.
True.
Like Iraq, Libya, and right now Iran. So we have scholarships ongoing. There might be scholarships in those countries, like
Yes.
Libya, in Iraq, and someone will stop from applying. Will be like, no, there is war. But because of history, there is war right now. So how do you convince this person that the country is now stable? Everything is stable. You can apply because they might miss out this opportunity. Yeah.
I think the thing is, I always tell people is like try and get very informed. Anything that you do not understand, ask someone who has been there or someone who is currently studying there. If you have questions, there's always the embassies of your country. If it's a Ghanaian embassy, contact the Ghanaian embassy in Iraq or whatever, in whatever country, and ask them those questions. There's always going to be someone who is going to reassure you, and because they're diplomats, they're always going to give you correct information. So do your due diligence. Don't be the person that's just living on fears or someone told me this, someone told me that. Do your due diligence. Make the research. If your child is going to this country, ask the people in that country. Go to the embassy of that country in of that country and ask them. You give out the scholarships. Your country is this. Call the embassy in Iran, the Ugandan embassy in Qatar or Ugandan embassy wherever. Ask the consulate there those questions. Send them an email. They always respond.
Yeah.
And you will get the answers that you're looking
And
for.
also maybe like make sure that scholarship opportunities from the right sources. Yeah, because most of these scholarships, as she said, it's being handled by a recognized body. It's embassy or Ministry of Education and all that.
And they definitely
I'm
send your child to a
exactly,
place that's
exactly.
unsafe or invite people to a place that's
So
unsafe.
if that scholarship or you found and you're not sure of the sources or then I wouldn't advise someone to go for it. Make sure you're applying for something you know there's security on it. Yes.
Because if it's a ministry of education scholarship, go to the Ministry of Education, ask them. If they don't,
They
go
have
to the
the
embassy of the
details.
country offering that scholarship, because then they also know whether it's legitimate or it's just a scam. So do your due diligence and do your research.
So someone was asking, what was the hardest academic adjustment you had to make?
The hardest academic adjustment, I think for me, I would say probably that I didn't really have to make, because I'd made peace with one thing. I am going to a new education system. I understand it's going to be difficult. I also understand that I may not be performing well from the start. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with, especially students who have been overachievers. You come from a country, you've been the top person in your class, you've been getting A's, and then suddenly you're here, but when this exam goes same day. Then you start thinking, am I worth it? Am I I'm probably going, I'm not even worth the scholarship. And I remember those first days when we used to sit in class. The fact that we did not understand French, you'd sit through a whole class and you walk out of the class and you didn't understand anything the teacher said.
Yeah, true.
But you have to sit the exam and pass. So for me, it was very difficult adjusting to a new language. And then the math, it was something we hadn't seen before. So I had to make peace mentally with the fact that, okay, this is a new system. It's an education system I've not been part of. So I am learning. Let me just say I entered a new school. Like, you know how you go to
That's what I
primary
was
and you
going to
don't know, and then
say.
it's all these new
Exactly.
subjects,
Yes.
and you try to acquaint, and you open to acquainting yourself with them.
Just as should be like, I'm here for the first time.
Yeah, for the
so
first
everything
time.
that is going to happen is going to be me learning. Yes.
It. Once you can think about that, I think a lot of the other
Yeah,
things come easy.
true.
The only time you're going to struggle if you're the person who comes in with the attitude of, I am smart, I've been doing things well in my country. That is where now people come in, because now you come in and you be lax. You do not want to revise. You don't want to do homework. You're not doing the extra work that's supposed to support you, to support your grades. Then suddenly the results are out and you are last and you start having depression. Please do not understand. I'm in a new system. The same way you walk into secondary school and then suddenly you had biology, chemistry, all these things you didn't have in primary school. And you understood and started learning and putting the energy to actually learn them.
Yeah.
Just keep that same attitude.
Yeah, and also of course for the start it's not easy, because I mean you're trying now to adapt to a lot of things.
To a lot of things.
The new
Language,
academic system, the language,
teacher,
the weather, the people, and everything. Yeah.
So it's
But you just have to stay determined. Yeah, just keep pushing on. Yeah, I remember it doesn't really take you long for you to figure out
to
stuff.
figure it out. Yes. Just figure out what works for you. What's most importantly.
Yeah.
Understand, okay, do I need to learn the language? Is learning the language what's going to
Give
make
time
it work
to learn
for you?
the
Take time
language.
and learn the language. Do I need to be watching YouTube videos? Learn on YouTube. Do I need to be going the extra mile for research? Like, figure out what works for you. And within time, you'll have it figured it out. You'll definitely be doing very well and not struggling in school. So for me, that is what I would say.
So someone was asking, what happens? Okay, what would you do if I told you went abroad and you failed to, you failed in your academics, literally failed to make it? How can I advise such a person?
If I failed in my academics, I think that,
I mean, that is the sole reason as why.
you
But then
went there.
things you've tried and things are not working out.
The first thing you need to ask yourself is am I doing what I really want to do? Because I think a lot of times people struggle is like, that's, I think also something my teacher used to tell us, is like there's a difference between the affinity and ability, or there's something that you love and having the ability for it. You'd love medicine, but you do not. The reality is you do not
Don't
have
have
the ability to study
do
that medicine.
medicine.
And that is where a lot of people fail. They think, oh, the love can sustain this. The love is not going to sustain you. Even if you love medicine and you're getting D's and you're getting E's, you're failing. That love is not going to be enough to sustain you. So you need, as a person and as you as an individual, you need to make peace with certain things. Like, you need to understand, as much as I love this particular cause, do I have the ability for it? Do I have? Because even if you want to be an engineer, but you're failing in class, you're going to spend 3 years in school and you're still in the first year of engineering school. It does not make sense, simply because you love engineering. So even, and that's the thing I tell students a lot. You've been offered medicine, you've been offered engineering, you've been offered law or whatever courses, business administration. Yes, you love it, or you asked for that course because you love it. Do you have the ability for it? And that is a truth you need to ask yourself, a question you need to truthfully ask yourself every time. Yes, I love this course, but do I have the ability for it? Can I do the maths? Can I do the physics? Can I do the chemistry? Do I have the ability for that? And if you're truthful with those answers, you will make a good decision for yourself. Because it doesn't make sense to do a 5-year course and you're just failing for all those 5 years. You'd rather go do a course that you actually have the ability for and you can actually pass. So people need to be truthful. The love for something is just not enough. Do you have the ability for it?
Also, sometimes it's not about the course, it is other surrounding issues.
Yes.
Find out your point. Find out what is the point of your failure. Where does it come from?
What's
It
causing
can
that
be
failure?
mental, social.
Yes.
Find out what is
Fine.
causing.
True.
And also don't wait for the
Worst case scenario.
Yes, because I mean you cannot be studying a course like you're in your first year for 3 years, and then
True.
you still want to do that.
And you still want to be in that course.
Yes, and let not the society do what push you for you to, because some people are like, now how do I go back without
and tell
the
them I'm not doing medicine. How do I go back without the medicine degree? Without the pharmacy degree?
I mean, this is your life.
This is your life. You're living it. It is your
living,
career
you're
also.
only accountable. You're accountable for your own life.
The people you're trying to impress, how are you going to impress them when you spent 5 years in year one? For 5 years, you're in year one
Year
of
one of
pharmacy, or
pharmacy.
year one of medicine for 5 years, but you're trying to impress people. What's the
Yeah. So if things are not working out, please.
Be truthful with yourself.
Yeah.
Be very truthful.
Mm.
And if you need to seek help, seek help.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going through, the thing is, the most important thing, be honest with yourself.
Mm.
Because we could ask you all these questions, but if you're not honest with yourself to say, okay, this is what I am going through, and I need to get help, or this is what I'm struggling with,
And I need to get help. Yeah.
regardless of how much help people are going to offer you, as long as you lack that honesty with yourself, it's just not going to
Yeah. So,
happen.
some people actually just give up altogether, even
Altogether,
seeking for
true
help.
help.
Yeah.
And then they just start looking
But still,
themselves
that
in the
does not also
rooms.
help.
It
Yeah.
doesn't
So
help.
yeah.
So seek help and be very, very honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Even there's something someone asks. What are what other financial implications are there that scholarships do not handle?
Well.
That sometimes because some scholarships are full,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you need to be chipping in somewhere. So what would be some of those things that probably your scholarship will not be able to handle?
Most full scholarships try to cover almost everything, but a bit of partiality in it
Yes.
is the medical insurances. Yeah, some scholarships might not give you the medical, and you have to cater for yourself.
Even your flights.
Yeah, even your flights, like your
Yes.
travel expenses,
Your travel
and all
expenses.
that. Yes.
So you need to think that.
Yeah.
Or
So
sometimes probably it's the visas. So when you're applying for those scholarship, make sure you do your research.
yeah, to
Find
find
out
out
what
what they
the scholarship
cover.
is covering and what it's not covering.
Yeah, but the
Yes.
good thing, most of these things are really manageable if at all you prepare in time.
A few of the scholars, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
a few of the scholastic materials.
Especially the ones which are course specific.
Yes, your scholarship may not, especially if
The-
course specific scholastic materials.
Outside of things like maybe laptops, scholarships, other things which are particular.
You know, those architecture rulers that they need to move with probably are not going to be covered in your scholarship, and they expect you to be buying it off of your upkeep or something. So you need to remember your books, actually, your notes, the pens, and some of the textbooks you're going to need for yourself probably are not going to be covered by the scholarship. So you need to do your research there.
So that means as you're planning and preparing for a given scholarship, you also have to prepare financially, because there are those expenses that you have to cater by yourself. Yeah.
We talk to people coming back
Yes,
For holidays.
before the end of the program. Some of
those trips.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
we talked about
cater
the
for
tickets.
yourself. Yeah.
You have to finance the holiday trips.
Mm.
Sometimes they are not covered with the ticket. So if you need, they probably give you the one ticket that's taking you, and probably the ticket that's supposed to the return flight after you're done with your education. But if you need to come back for your holidays, probably that's a ticket you're going to be paying for yourself. So do your research and find out.
Someone was asking, is studying abroad as glamorous as social media makes it look?
I would say no. It's not as glamorous that like social media makes it look. The thing is, it is not as glamorous as the pictures you see on Instagram or the ones they post on WhatsApp or the stories you're seeing on Snapchat. It is not. You actually, the funny thing is, like when you're applying for those scholarships and then you interact with students who are studying in those countries, you see their WhatsApp statuses, you see their Instagram, you see their
And
stories, and you're thinking, oh my god, they are living their life.
the life,
Then you
yeah.
get to the country and suddenly you're not seeing their life.
The life.
It's just adding up, and then later on, when you also start
When you
living
get
that
used
life,
to it,
get used to it,
you start
and
creating the life.
you start creating the Instagram life. Now
Yeah.
that people also were applying will be seeing it, and they're thinking, oh, she's living, but the reality is not so. The reality is international student life is not as glamorous as people make it look on the internet. There's so much that happens beyond the photos that are very well
Yeah.
polished, beyond the makeup, the people that have makeup, beyond the people that you see in heels. There is so much that is happening that you're not going to see, and that's what I think that's a little bit of a letdown. A lot of international students do not post the part that's the struggle. They're always going to post the good parts.
They're
The
not.
parts they're partying, the parts they're happy. Nobody is really telling you the actual struggle of international students. It is not as glamorous as it looks.
Yeah, but it's also a good thing, because sometimes you're away from people you're used to or so you try to find your own happiness.
Your own happiness. Yeah.
And like having such, activities or times where you go out and have fun, you eat, you move around the country, you see the beautiful parts of the country and all that. Yeah, but still there's that life when you go back to your room in school.
And when you go back to
Yeah.
your room, when you go to school, and suddenly it's not the picture perfect Instagram
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then someone else is asking, is it true that international students have to work twice as hard?
Yes, that is not even a lie. It's 2 times, 3 times, 4 times as hard. You international students really work so hard because
Yeah.
first and foremost, sometimes you're moving to a new education system that you do not know, and the people, the locals you're studying with, have been in that
In that
education
system,
system for
yeah.
some time. So for you, you're starting from nowhere. So you need to be able to catch up. Sometimes it's even content-wise, it's a bit different. The content they've been studying in their secondary schools
Yeah.
and what you've been doing is different. So now you need to be able to know what they were doing in secondary school so you to catch up and be at par with them. So it is difficult. And then if you add on the fact that sometimes you're even studying in a language that's different from what you're
From
used
exactly.
to, and it's a totally new language, then it's totally 3 or 4 times quite as
Exactly.
hard. So there's just no shortcuts. International students, definitely you need to work
Yeah,
twice
but
as hard.
that should not scare you. People have
Yes,
made it.
I've made it.
Yeah, so
The
you
thing is,
can.
that's why I always tell people is like you ask the seniors you find, or we used to call them ancias, or the people who have been in that country before on that scholarship. Ask them how they coped, what they used to do, because to me it helped a lot. They would always give you the shortcuts. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I think you need to do things this way, and you need to do things this way. So it's very important also that as a person, you're the kind of person that listens. Because if people are offering you advice and you're not taking it, then it's not going to work. But if someone is offering advice, this someone, especially if they've walked that same path
That's exactly.
and they've found a way to succeed, I hope they figured it out. They've made so many mistakes. They've done the try and error. So they know that if I did this, it's going to work. If I did this, so it saves you a lot of time for you to then go be a person that's saying, can I try this? Can I try this? Someone has always gives you a formula that has worked
Yeah.
for them. Try it out.
True. Yeah, and another question. Does studying abroad guarantee you a good job afterwards?
It
I
is
remember
a
we have this in one of our
yeah, we
episodes.
have this in one of our episodes.
Yeah.
Studying abroad does not guarantee you a job.
Yeah. I mean it's like normal normal you attending a university as
In
it
your
is at home.
country,
Yeah.
yes. You do not have a guarantee for a job. The
Yeah.
same way you're studying abroad is not going to guarantee you a job. Or you think, oh, because I've studied abroad, maybe I come back home, I'm going to have a job right away. It may not. It may be the case. It may not.
It may not,
But
yeah.
studying abroad does not necessarily guarantee you a job. Yes. I mean, someone asked us, what are the biggest financial mistakes international students make?
Yeah, you know how we talked about the Instagram life?
Yes.
Now, to create
The
that
Snapchat
life,
stories.
exactly. To create that life,
Picture perfect
one
moments.
needs money. And then it so happens people get sucked into that life that they end up not even realizing they're spending
A lot.
all their money. You get.
When you want the latest gadget, you have a phone that's working. Maybe the iPhone 17 is out, you want to
You
buy
want it, yes.
They've put out a new, because usually in a lot of those countries that have 4 seasons, we are always for the outfits are put out in seasons. You want to have the latest summer outfit, and those times, like the outfit that is in season is
Very
always very
expensive, yes.
You want to have the latest winter jacket, but the winter jacket you have is already
It's already
okay,
working.
and you're
Yeah.
probably coming from a tropical country that does not have winter. So why are you going to wear all those winter jackets that you're buying every season? You want to have the latest boots, the latest things. So please do not follow the brands that you want to have all the Nike sneakers.
You know, being a
the
student,
Adidas sneakers.
being a
It's
student,
a
there's
lot.
certain kind of luxury that you cannot afford. For okay, just accept that you cannot afford that luxury unless you want to be broke and suffer. So you can eat well today and starve tomorrow.
I know people, by the way, who'd be given their pocket money and then they use it to buy clothes the whole time. They buy the expensive Adidas sneakers, they buy the expensive Nike sneakers. Suddenly they don't have money to buy food during the summer. So when you look at somebody, they think, I'm starving, and you're like, okay, where did all your money go? They show you a rack of
Starving,
shoes,
but
but they are
adorning in
starving.
nice
Please
and
don't be
expensive.
those people. Yes. And then you would ask, is like,
Yeah.
naeza customer ni sente zange gye zigenda
Eh,
nanzitunakawo nenziraba,
yeah.
please.
So
But
please
they're
spend
starving, spend
wisely,
wisely.
wisely,
But
wisely.
also you need to remember, do not be very extravagant with how you buy things, because it makes no sense to have so much luggage and suddenly you're going to have to
To
leave
leave
all
it
these
behind,
expensive
yes.
pieces in the country because you don't have enough space to bring them to your country.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the money is also important when you finish school. People don't talk about the expenses of returning home,
Exactly.
especially if you are the person that has been used with international students. You're so used to holding money, to having your dollars, your euros, and then coming home and not having access to that money, to that level of
It's
independence.
so
It's
overwhelming
very, very
and
overwhelming.
depressing.
Very depressing.
Yes.
No sentence ono nalinganga nzirina ngebyo
Yeah.
byotunyumiza.
And also you've been not been used to asking from your parents.
Yes.
Now you have to wake up every morning, mommy, bampeyo mtwalo. I have to go
Netaga
here.
transport mami mbadde
Uchitegela.
nsaba
Yeah.
ebiri
So
netaaga okusula bino
all
ebipapula ku
that.
kampani eri. Please do not be so. Save your money because
Mm.
it will give you a very good head start when you
Ag-
come home. It's always good when you come
Exactly.
home and you have some bit of money. You have somewhere to start because the other thing, photocopying is also expensive.
Like
You're going to be a lot of
paperwork. You
photocopying.
still have
It's so
paperwork when
much
you come
paperwork
back
when you come
home.
back home. So
Yeah.
please make sure you're having some very good
And you're
financial
saving
and you're
because you need that
saving.
money. Yeah.
So if someone also asked this is, what do you do when you feel like you don't belong? As
And
an
you feel like
international student, yes, like
as an intern.
those moments when you feel like I probably don't belong here. How does someone cope?
Okay, I think when that happens, that means you're homesick, I should say. That means you're missing home, you're missing your parents, either you're missing like your company, or is it your siblings, is it your friends? Yes, so I think what you should do is try to communicate, like make that phone call your parents, talk to them, call that sibling of yours that you confide in, like you talk, call a friend that you confide in, you talk, because that happens if you miss home. Yeah. So okay, that's what I think, because that's what I would do
No, but it
if I
is.
was in that position.
Eat something that
Yeah.
comes from home.
It's
Cook a
something
meal that comes from
exactly.
home.
What's something
What's
that
something that
reminds you
reminds you of
home
home?
and all
Spend
that?
time with your countrymates, like
Yeah,
people who seem familiar to you.
exactly.
Do
Yeah,
those
knowing that
things.
it's a temporary feeling. Yeah, when you do that, you get better.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've come to the end of today's episode. We've had fun answering your questions.
Yeah.
And for any questions that we've not answered today, do not feel let down. We'll be answering them in another Q&A episode. Thank you so much for listening to us. Remember to also listen to our previous podcasts. Watch our previous YouTube videos. Watch them for any questions that you're going to need answering. Keep sending us your DMs. Keep sending us your questions. We are always going to find time to answer them in our Q&A episodes or at the beginning of the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.